I apprenticed myself to Paul, and I had to like grow into. I was 21 when I started.
Oh, so he mentored you? Oh, I've never had that. No way. I could never, ever.
The age difference was
the alpha male
years.
thing, you f them, and that's it.
No,
you
he was an alpha
not
male.
go off and run off with the
No, and then I did it the other way around, and.
You ever thought about marrying a movie star?
No, after the Paul thing, no. I always find.
But I mean, do you ever notice that, you know, the women that we know that are married to movie stars have this incredible amount of power because they're married? It's like a Jackie Collins fever dream. I'm not going to name names.
Because it always breaks up. Look at them all.
Yeah, it breaks up, but it's an interesting, you know.
Power couples is like a really overrated gig.
I know. I have an almost, what was it called? You know, in Vietnam when you would.
Conscientious objection.
Exactly. I have a to marrying up. Because I did it once.
It's called hypergamy.
Hypergamy, what does that mean?
That's the word, marrying up in station.
Is that right?
I used to say to Paul that he committed spiritual hypergamy.
Well, hypergamy, I'm glad that I learned it. Did you know what the word misandrony means?
No.
The opposite of misogyny.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in.
So some hypergamy with some misandrony.
Let's go the whole thing out.
I have a conscious objection to marrying up, and I actually I refuse to marry up. I'm not going to ever marry up again. I got accused.
When did you marry up?
I got accused of marrying up, and I wasn't.
Weren't you with him before he was up?
Yes, very much.
So
and I was selling more records, and then now all of a sudden, it was the weirdest turn my life ever took. I mean, beyond the speed thing, I really did not expect to become the groupie girlfriend. It truly was the shocker. I mean,
But that's what they do.
No, but I knew my path was going to be very controversial and very, you know, that what I tended to express was dark, was angry, was f***ed up. I'm obnoxious, I get on people's nerves, I'm sassy,
no, you're
whatever, all those things, whatever, or the good and the bad. But what I never expected is the curveball to the head at 150 miles an hour that I had somehow married up. It's horrifying. So I deliberately, if I have sex with somebody who's, you know, up on the thing, and I do have, you know, I've had that little affairs here and there, I won't tell a soul, literally. I don't want anyone to know.
Before Brittany and Christy
Street, you guys have dental care, residential, you have the motion picture fund, you have SAG, we have nothing, all right? When you name me, Stand By Me, you know, 5 of your favorite songs from 5 different decades, and I will find you 5 people who died destitute,
right?
And uncool people like people in Foghat or Rat, or, you know, people that you don't want to admit made companies hundreds of millions of dollars. We have no union, none. So maybe it's the Jew in me, which we'll get to, but for whatever reason, I've just become this very serious activist about creating a union for us. And, you know, going to Kevin Spacey's house and seeing all of you movie stars like sobbing at the sight of the little old guy gets trotted out, and he came to Hollywood to find Billy Dove in 1920, and they show, he's not even a character actor, they show footage of his entire career. He's a cashier in the Philadelphia Story, and he's in Malice, and, you know, he's now living happily in one of the 90 homes built for him, you know, that are really luxe and great that Spielberg has donated, and everyone's sobbing, and Michael Douglas is sobbing, and DeVito's sobbing, and, you know, you're all sitting there sobbing, you damn movie stars, and I'm sobbing because we can't even get dentures.
Well, so you're trying to get this. You're trying to get it unionized.
Yeah, we need a union. We have to have a union. It sucks.
Is anybody doing this all with you?
Well, yeah, there's a Recording Artists Coalition with Don Henley's in it and Sheryl Crow. But I mean, it's sort of like SAG, where you've got to find people like Ed Asner who are sort of at the twilight of their careers, and they have the time to do it. And I'm sort of still like, you know, I'm in my prime. I might not be in 3 more years, but right now I need to go and finish a record. So, you know, how do I finish a union and change this one piece of legislation that got screwed around, and also finish a record?
But I mean, the rock world is much more urgent. It seems much more sort of political. Yeah.
Well, political, isolated is another thing. You know, actors want to meet each other, and back in the 60s, musicians wanted to meet each other. But we're very, very, as rock stars, isolated for a reason, because if we start talking to each other, so I had this dinner with Bono and Macy, and you know what I mean? We start.
So there's no community.
No, there's no community, because the lawyers want to prevent us from talking to each other. So Courtney's crazy, she's starting a union, or, you know, I mean, a lot of these people, Alanis Morissette, Dixie Chicks, they are in litigation right now with their record companies. Alanis sold 28 million records around the world. Do you know how much money that is? That is as much money as the Titanic ever made for a company. All right, I mean, at least we could get treated nice. If we're going to make you guys as much money, I mean, you guys, you know, I know you
I
hate
love
it.
that I'm being lumped in.
I know, I know you scream about this.
It.
But I mean, we make those guys as much money as James Cameron, and then we get like mayonnaise sandwiches.
Hollywood Bowl, where you got in a fight. Did you get in a fight with like this
A rock star? Yeah, well, see, but it was a rock star I'd never had a feud with. So everybody, I'm one of the few girl rock stars that sells kind of a lot. So every guy that's in my sales bracket has to have a feud with me, or sex and a feud. And this was a guy that I've always just really sort of respected. And he asked me to open for him, which I didn't really need or want to do, but it was the Hollywood Bowl. It was so glamorous, and I could invite older people, you know, like Norman Lear. I invited Norman Lear. Do you know what I mean? Like, have some wine and cheese, see some rock. That wouldn't normally come to, say, the Palladium and want to get, you know, in the mosh pit kind of thing. You know, I could invite Danny DeVito. I could invite Hollywood people, basically. And he had never gotten to have a feud with me, and I'd always just been very respectful of him. And so he had me cut after 15 minutes.
So is the feud ongoing?
I'm not going to give him the satisfaction. I can't. It's too.
Isn't it exhausting?
No, he gets this many column inches out of it. So I mean, I'm not going to throw out my records of his. I love him. He's one of my favorite rock stars.
I would think it would be exhausting to have the feuds, though. No, but
no,
you
they
sort
happen
of.
in the press, so they.
You're like Italian that way with your sort of.
I think, well, no, Patty, who's been my drummer for years and years and years, she had like a 2-year living in a tent crack existence downtown, and I did this very classic rock horrible thing where I let the producer tell me that she sucked, let him play me a tape. This is so like out of the rock bad cliche book. Let him play me a tape of her sounding the worst that he had basically cobbled together. He had kept a guy on retainer the whole time, and I'd only really ever had one ambition, well, two. I saw Tatum O'Neal win an Oscar when I was like 5, and she was 7, which you can place my age at that point. And I ran away from home the next day, and the other one was to have an all-girl Beatles. So those were my 2 big ambitions.
Well, you've gotten, you know.
No, I have not had.
Well, you haven't gotten your Oscar, but
I haven't had an all-girl Beatles. But I did do this horrible thing to Patty, where I ruined her life for 2 years because I kicked her out of the band for the duration of the record, and she said, you know, off and pay me a lot of money, and she went off and did a lot of crack, and she came back, I don't know how, without going to rehab, without 12-step. She looks 10 years younger. She's 5 times better a drummer. It's totally satanic. But Patty, you know, and at some point I just feel like, you know, since I destroyed her life so much, I love her so much and I missed her so much that she's behind me all the time, like the knife is just gonna come. I don't know when, at what point. But she went and lived downtown, and she would boost lighters and batteries from stores and sell them, and that's how she lived. And I mean, I hope she doesn't mind me telling this story, but anyway, she reminded me the day of the Hollywood Bowl. She said, you know, we had played all these festivals with this band, and she said, he's always had to open for us. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, name it. And she's like, well, Kugelpop in Holland. She goes, the one in Sweden. She named all these festivals. Well, he'd had to play lower on the bill than us. And I was like,
men don't like that.
But I didn't accept my defeat very gracefully. I held a sign. And
I can't imagine you not roll.
I know. I didn't know what to do. I was just so embarrassed. He didn't let me get to my good song. I told the Russell Crowe story because I felt like I had met a real soul friend in this guy. He's not the funniest guy in the world. I will say that for him. But he's an emotional genius. And every single time I've met Russell, I grab his hand, and I mean, I used to see Russell Crowe, but you got to remember this about Russell Crowe. He came to town, he did a skinhead movie called Romper Stomper 14 years ago, and he was going to be a big star. And he's been around for a long time, and I used to see him out with his friends and think, that guy's kind of cool. You know,
it's always like these overnight successes, but the night was really long.
The night was very long, and the slipper it doesn't quite fit, and you know, there's a lot of pain there of being, you know, just even after LA Confidential, people weren't good to him. I remember going in to talk to Ridley Scott about a script that he ended up in Gladiator with him, but it was another script with somebody else, and I said, Jesus, did you see LA Confidential? You know, you should put this guy in. And every time I've met him, I touch him and I start to like cry. And He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, and I like him enormously, but I like him as a friend. And so when we hung out, I was drunk. I drank a lot of tequila. I wrote a lot of poetry. He was going through some paranoid crash where he was really getting scammed by some people that not your friend, the security specialist, but some of his rivals were telling Russell that he was being, having gone through with the same company and having the 18 bodyguards over here, finding out that the stalker is really my neighbor's son. You know what I mean? I was really, had no tolerance for these people, but I just cried all night, and he was like, you need a friend, and it was nice, you know, it was just nice, and then, boom, tabloid hell, and, you know, I don't think I know no one in my household was feeding it, but, and I felt like I lost a buddy.
Oh, so then you can't...
Well, I haven't made the call. I called his house in Australia, and I talked to his brother for a while, and, you know, he called me, but then I didn't call back, and